Hi metal brethren, and welcome back to my channel Trust in Rock, where you're joining me for another edition of RockDrop. And today I am proud to present an in-depth interview with the band Ray of Light, and I'm going to be talking to them all about their debut album Salute. And there is so much to unpack about the story of how this album came about. And I'm going to cross over to the interview right now, where I'm joined by Stephan and Gregg. Welcome to my channel Trust in Rock. Well, first of all, I want to congratulate you on the album Salute. Awesome, and just the feedback's been amazing. We're going to talk about that, but I guess Stephan, if I could come to you first, what was your vision for the sort of new band, and how did you want to kind of build out and advance all of your previous experience?
Well, I had a long break, you know. I left Frontline after the second album in the mid-90s. And I mean, I cut a long story short because we don't have that much time, you know, to tell the whole story. But the deciding moment, more or less, was when Robby and myself had a phone call, which was obviously a very long phone call. And then from that moment onwards, we basically, during that phone call, we decided that we're going to do it again, that we try to reunite the band Frontline, and then we had meetings, you know. And I mean, I said, if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it properly, because you know, doing whatever mediocre stuff, or it's kind of waste of time. And my point actually was I wanted to play drums again, but
That's the short answer.
Then we decided that the three of us, it was Robby, Hutch, the bass player, and myself, that we're going to continue, but we need to have a new singer. And we had tracks, you know, Robby had already written a lot of tracks, and then we were starting to write songs together. We changed them around. And then I have an old friend of mine, it's Paul Sabu, the guy from America who writes for Alice Cooper and whatever, Shania Twain, etc. And I hooked up with Paul, and I sent him the tracks, and he said, "This is awesome. Do you want me to write lyrics?" And I said, "Yeah, of course. I mean, Paul is a great lyric writer, and he wrote melodies, etc." So this way we developed the songs. And then Gregg came in the picture, more or less accidentally, you know, while we were writing the stuff with Paul. And this is basically, it was more or less how the whole story, in a nutshell, you know, this is all in a nutshell. I mean, there were a lot of things happening with many people who were in the picture. And yeah, well, and then I discovered Gregg, and that was basically it was a turning point.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, I kind of want to go really to the start of the album, because it's obviously the opening track is about the passing of Robby Boebel, and I wondered, you know, you described the making of the album as a roller coaster, and I can completely understand that. And Robby's passing must have been, you know, the absolute low point, but you kind of did rebuild from that. Did the you know, how did you overcome that and carry on, and how did the fellowship of the band you know, support you in that? And you know, perhaps you could maybe say that, you know, carrying on with the album helped you process the grief in some way.
It was before Robby passed away. He told me, actually, he wrote me a WhatsApp on the 22nd of February 22. We knew, I mean, that we're not going to finish, that we're not allowed to finish the album together. This is what we both knew. I mean, it was really tough moments when we spoke on the phone, when we hung up, and sometimes I thought, was this the last call? No, it was not the last call. And it continued that way for like 4.5 months. And then the middle of July, he passed away. And we had one final phone call. And I didn't want it to touch the subject music anymore. And then we brought it up in that conversation. And Robby said to me, he said, Stephan, you're going to finish the album. You're going to do that. And I'm going to put it in your hands. And it's going to be good at the end of the day. And I said, okay. And I promised him that I'm going to do it somehow. And after Robby was gone, I just, for several weeks, actually a few months, I couldn't really listen to the tracks anymore. And then I went into my studio, actually in that room here. There's PC and, monitors and all that stuff. And I was turning on the computer and I was listening to individual tracks. And I mean, individual tracks, guitar tracks only, and I was muting other stuff. And then I was listening to Robby's guitars. And I literally sat here in tears. I stopped it. I left the room. I said to my wife, I cannot do that anymore, because Robby had a very unique way of playing guitar. It was the way he was bending strings and how he played individual notes. You could tell it's Robby, and you could tell and you could feel that. It was, and then after a while, I said, okay, we need to continue. We were trying to find a guitar player, but we didn't find any appropriate person, because we were not just looking for a guitar player, but also a person we can work with, on a personal level. There are a ton of good guitar players out there. There is no doubt about it. And then the deciding moment or factor, basically, from my point of view, was I always pressed play. I was listening to certain songs and I thought, this is so fantastic. This is so good. I just cannot put it in a drawer, Close the drawer and it's there forever and it's never going to see the light of day. And the people, they need to hear it, And this is what I personally thought. And I spoke to the other guys, to Gregg and to Hutch, and we were having many conversations. Then I flew to Gregg to Middlesbrough for like a few days, and we spoke about it, what we can do. And it went on and on like this for like, how long? I don't know, Gregg, how long? When did we started working with Warty then? Like 1.5 years ago, right? Or 2 years ago?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. There's a couple of guys helping doing a couple of different mixes and putting some guitar tracks down. So yeah, it took another year and a half past that point.
Yeah.
To really start getting our teeth back into it properly, wasn't it? Yeah.
Actually, I had Warty already in the back of my mind from the very beginning. He was kind of would have been the first choice, but I thought Warty is too busy. Actually, Warty was the guy who replaced Robby in his band after Frontline. They were called Evidence One. It was kind of more metal kind of thing band, and Warty took Robby's place, and therefore he would have been our first choice. And Robby liked Warty, and therefore, and he's a nice guy, and. Then I just picked up the phone and I said, Warty, do you want to play a couple of solos? And then we were having more and more conversations on the phone, and whoever brought it up, I think it was me who said, you want to join the band maybe? And he said, yeah, because I will do that right away. And this was an answer I didn't expect, because Warty, as I said, he's totally busy, but it's his DNA. It's music-wise, he's coming from that background, Whitesnake and that kind of stuff, and therefore he just didn't hesitate. He said, yes, Stephan, I'm going to do it. I'm in, And it was a decision, on the other hand, which was important for me to know that Robby would be okay with that, You would think, okay, Warty, he's having my blessing, so to speak, We were trying to keep as many Robby guitars as possible, that were already recorded. Some of them we just couldn't keep because they were scratch tracks or guide tracks, and Robby, he wanted to replace them after the drums were done. And then Warty basically played a lot of rhythm guitars, but we saved a lot of solos. And so we ended up having like 50% Robby, 50% Warty on the album. And it's just like the best of both worlds, you know, what we have guitar-wise now.
Oh, it's so wonderful that, you know, you've been able to keep some of his work, and you also dedicated the video to Falling to Pieces to him as well.
Yeah.
And that song, you know, has a very strong message of, you know, fighting on and rebuilding from when you've reached rock bottom, and it's very relatable on so many levels.
Falls down and the night closes in. Dry your eyes from the misery. Somehow keep your heart still beating. Falling to pieces. I will be waiting when all is said and done. Now I'm falling to pieces. Yes, I will be waiting when all is said and done. So catch me, I'm falling to pieces.
Gregg, I'll come to you now, and I'm gonna probably make you blush a little bit, but I think you, as the choice of vocalist, is inspired. I think you fit in so well with the band, and I think you have such a good energy about you, and that's before we even talk about your voice and how incredible it is. So what was it like for you to be selected to be the singer of a band with somebody with, you know, Stephan and the other band members' credentials?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it obviously happened through lockdown. So usually I'm quite busy with playing theatre cover bands all across the UK. So I'm quite busy with that, and also some other side projects. But with us being off the road for nearly 2 years, there was not much to kind of give me that chance to really get my creative juices flowing again, because I hadn't done my own stuff for maybe 5-6 years. So yeah, but when they sent me some demos across, and you know, I'd replaced a few of the vocal tracks, and then we just sort of said, don't send me anything else, just send me the basic tracks with no guides, and we just see what we come up with. So that's how we did it from the first song onwards. So we kind of like redid everything what had been done previous, but also put a new stamp on it. But yeah, working with the guys has been amazing. You know, although I didn't get to meet Robby, we did speak quite a lot remotely, you know, through the recording process. But yeah, you know, a lot of the stuff what the guys have played on is, you know, it's great. It's really good to be involved. Yeah, it's exciting.
Very exciting, and I love the English-German collaboration. Now, you know, despite what happened with Robby, the album is actually very upbeat and positive, and I think that's so needed in the situation that the world is in right now, and has been probably for the last you know, maybe 5 years. And you know, what I think is interesting is that you had Robby's passing in the background, and I wondered if that you know, perhaps made you, Stephan, really think about, you know, mortality, and you know, that we've got to live every day to the full, and we've got to live in the present. Did it kind of influence you actually in a positive way in your own life going forwards?
Oh yes, yeah, it does. You start, as you just said, you start thinking about that things are not, you know, eternal. You know, sooner or later we all have to go from here. You know, and this is why, I mean, we cannot waste any time. I mean, you cannot have every day a perfect day, but you're going to use your time. You know, and as we're getting older, the less time we have, of course. And yes, it made me think. Absolutely, it's sometimes it was even depressing. And I'm a kind of that guy. I refuse actually to think about this. You know, I don't want to think about dying and all this stuff. I'm a very positive person, and I can be really ignorant, thinking about, negative stuff, I just refuse that sometimes, and well, most of the time. But it's you have to face it, And with Robby's passing, it was very close, It was just too close, and for a few weeks I fell into a black hole, and I just couldn't think of anything else. But I mean, we got to continue. We got to make the best out of it,
Yeah.
That's the point. It's even with all the grieving and all the stuff, but we have to continue. And I think we converted it into positive music somehow. And this talking about the music again. It makes the album something special. I mean, a lot of the stuff was already written, but it's got a certain feel to it, the positivity, and it's just I'm tired of, talking about negative stuff or listening to bands who were having like those negative messages. Just today, I read a review from a fan, more or less. He's running a web scene or something, and he wrote, with all the negativity in the world we have nowadays, it's so refreshing listening to the Ray of Light album. Everybody's trying to be the next Five Finger Death Punch or running a black metal band because it's heavy and cool, And I think with the music we do nowadays in the year 2025, maybe it's refreshing for the people to hear. Over the last decades, they did a research, and AC/DC, they were up and downs, They were there, and then they went a little bit down. And AC/DC were always at the peak of their career when the times were tough, because they have a positive message.
Yep.
And always when the times were getting tough, the people, they were just, tired of listening to depressive music and stuff that's bringing them down. They want to they want to have positive messages. And this is why AC/DC always worked when the times were basically not good, when we had political problems on the planet. And I mean, we have a ton of that nowadays. I mean,
yeah. Well, during difficult times, people also resort to nostalgia because it makes them feel good.
Yeah, exactly.
Understandable. Yeah. And I think you've got such a great balance of, the nostalgia from the kind of influences of, the heyday of MTV's Headbangers Ball, the golden era of metal, I call it. And then you've got Gregg coming in with new influences. And, you said in a previous interview that this feels like your debut album, and that's just so wonderful because it sounds like a completely, fresh new start. How amazing to have that at this juncture in your career.
I'm so grateful that I'm allowed to experience that twice in my life. And as I said earlier today, it's the first cut is the deepest. And when you do your first album, it's you have all your life, you have years to put into your first album. You can be selective about songs and et cetera, et cetera. And then finally, boom, there is that first debut album. You're all excited about it. You feel like you got to tell everybody in the whole world about it, With the Ray of Light album, it feels like what we did with the Frontline album back then. To me, I'm doing a second time a very first album. This is how it feels to me, with the response we're getting, and with the long break I had in between albums. And I was kind of resetting my brain, and I had an interesting conversation with Robby. He stopped for 5 years. He stopped playing guitar, and I stopped for several years playing drums. And what we figured, maybe it's a musician thing, I don't know. After that long break, I could play different things. I could play stuff I couldn't play back then. And I could play like this.
I get that.
I don't know why, because maybe it's about the nerves, or your brain works differently after all those years. I have no clue. I have to ask a specialist. But
I think it's maybe something to do with you just get burnt out and you become like a flat battery in terms of creativity and stuff. So it is good to have a break. We're going to see a clip from Stand Up. and this is one of slightly more kind of mellow track, and does have a feeling of nostalgia about it. Can you just kind of give us a quick introduction to this track?
I mean, this was probably one of my favourites off the album. It's just got like a really nice vibe to the chorus. It's a big song. It just kind of means whenever, you know, when the chips are down, just keep on fighting and stand up, and, you know, just keep on keeping on.
Another time or place, and I swear we make it happen. I see this fight still in your eyes. We gotta stand up, let's fly into the night. Prisoners of emotion. Stand up with no regrets tonight. Oh, easy way out of here. Stand up, just another lonely night. Prisoners of emotion. Stand up, let's fly into the night. Prisoners of emotion.
It's a very important message, because, you know, people do experience real curveballs in life, and you can feel like you've been knocked down and it's hard to get back up. And I think that song is very much about, you know, as you say, fighting on, standing up, keeping going. And I'm sure that the fans will really love that. And, you know, you've had amazing response to the album. What's your Amazon news?
That was on Wednesday last week, I think, and I thought, huh? What the hell? We're on 8 or something? How come? In hard rock, you know. And a week earlier, when the album was not available, it was on most wished albums in the UK in hard rock, and we were stuck in between AC/DC Highway to Hell, Back in Black, and on 11, and we were on 12, I think. It was Rainbow Rising. And I'm an old Rainbow fan, and I thought, I mean, this is just a once in a lifetime experience, you know. I'm right beside Rainbow's Rising. We're talking Ronnie James Dio and all of those guys, you know. And I thought, oh my God! And then suddenly on Friday, I was pressing on the link, clicking on the link again. John, from the distribution company, sent me, and then I wasn't even really looking. I was putting my cell phone away, and Evelina, my wife, she took it and she took a look, and she said, "You got to check this out." And I couldn't believe my eyes. We were on 1. I said, "No, this is not true." And it really happened that way. I mean, it's Amazon is, you know, it's an indicator. It's you know, it lasts for maybe a few days or something, or a couple of days, and then you drop down to maybe 80 again or something. But at least we were on 1. For 1 day or something, you know, and we didn't do it, you know, it was completely unintentionally, you know. I mean, it was never our intention to, you know, what I'm saying.
I'm going to ask you both this question. I'll ask Greg first. Greg, what are you most proud of about the album?
I absolutely love the production on it. I think Warwick did an amazing job with the mix. Going from the demo process straight to the finished product is just amazing. The contribution he gave to that. I think, it's just, I would just say, the overall product, I'm really, really pleased with. I couldn't have wished for anything better for my debut album anyway.
Stephan, what are you most proud about?
Oh, well, basically that we were able to finish the whole thing. This is what I'm proud of, you know, because there were moments in my life where I thought, nah, I'm going to call it a day, you know. I'm just not able to finish it. And because of obvious reasons, you know. I couldn't believe when a few weeks ago, when I was holding the finished product in my hand. I mean, a real product, physically, a CD, you know. To be honest, I cannot tell you what my favorite song is. It varies. I love City of Angels, and you're absolutely right about the vocal harmonies. They're just freaking insanely good. And it's the production. I mean, song-wise, I love Alive. It's a special song. We never picked it as a video or single track, but it's a very important album track. and there are so many tracks. We have 10 tracks, and I love like 9.5 of them.
Well, that's sure a sign of a good album.
Absolutely, yeah.
They're all your babies, and you can't choose between them.
Exactly. Yeah.
You mentioned City of Angels. It's the most recent single, just recently released, and this to me has a very kind of US vibe to it, and it feels like you just need a bit of sunshine and an open top car and an empty road, and then you put your pedal down and you turn the volume up. Again, it's a fantastic track.
She feels her temperature rising as I open the door. My heart skipped a full beat. Can't you feel it? Set the world on fire. We're back down on earth. You just got to be real. Living in a city of angels. Gotta keep the dreams alive.
The influences on quite a lot of the stuff of the album for me personally would have been around bands like what I grew up on, like Danger to Def Leppard, and then even a bit of the Survivor kind of Hot to Sleep album was kind of a big album for me, I think, and I think that's some of that's come out in this. And obviously because Stephan was such a huge fan of Jimmy Jameson, and that's how we actually met, because I did a cover of a Jimmy Jameson song online. So the kind of I was probably putting some of that sort of vibe into the album without really knowing it, until I listened back at it and kind of thought, I can hear hints of certain things in here. But yeah, it's definitely got an 80s vibe, that song. Yeah.
It was a tough mix, actually, doing the mix of City of Angels, selecting all the different vocals. And I was insisting, basically, Greg, maybe you remember that, on a lead vocal, like living in the City of Angels, putting that on top, and all the choirs and all this stuff, putting it underneath and not making it too obvious, but still they are hearable. It was a tough thing to do, and but at the end of the day, we're all, I think, really, really happy with the song. I mean, it's a special song. Yeah, it is.
We're going to close this out now with a final question. Just really, are you going to take the album out on the road? Are we going to see you on tour? What's happening next for you?
It's definitely the plan. Yeah, we have to have it, put it in the right setting. We're not 20 years old anymore and playing in a club like whatever for like 100, 150 people or something, or putting up the drum kit myself and all that stuff. The plan basically is, this is what I'm having in mind, or we're just working on, is doing support shows for bigger bands, in order to have the right frame, light-wise, production-wise, etc. Because this kind of music, we're not a three-piece rock and roll band, and doing like do 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 do. It's we have all those choirs, all that stuff, and we're gonna deliver it the right way.
Awesome. Well, I shall be checking out your website. The fans can also look there to catch up with your latest news. I'll put the link below this video. All that remains for me to say is thank you both so much for joining me on the call. Stephan and Gregg from Ray of Light. And I have to say, guys, and I'm sorry to be a little bit cheesy, but I want to say I salute you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, Vanessa.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I do hope you enjoyed that interview with Stephan and Gregg from Ray of Light, and I do recommend that you check out their debut album, Salute. You won't be disappointed. And I'm going to drop some links below the video so you can go and connect with the band on their socials. Now, please do drop your comments on the video. Love to hear your feedback. And also, please, please, please subscribe. I do need you to subscribe to support my channel in continuing with my more than metal content. So that's it from me for this edition of RockDrop. I'll see you next time on Trust in Rock. And in the meantime, you know what to do. Keep it heavy.